Oh, here we go. Shalom, my friends. Shalom. Wait, please. If you're going to speak, we need to unmute. Shalom to you in the neighborhood. REESA WOOLF, how are you?
So fine. It's really great to be with you.
That's what you think. But no, it's wonderful to be with you. We are here. Let me tell you just a little bit about REESA WOOLF. She has spent 33 or more than that years coaching people on how to speak in public, how to get over stage fright, how to make the speeches of their lives and do TED Talks. She grooms people, but in a good way, not in the Harvey Weinstein and the other Epstein way. No, it's a different kind of grooming. And she has a new book out. It's called Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear. So, won't you please tell us about the book and tell us about what you do? REESA WOOLF, shalom.
I'm really, really happy to be here. You help so many people. I have for years stopped people's public speaking fear. I trained TED Talk speakers. For 20 years, I coached Fortune 500 people, and that's just what I do. And I notice currently around the world, good people are not speaking up. And I thought, all right, it's time to write a second book. And this time about overcoming public speaking fear, but I put it in a very simple format because people who are afraid of public speaking, unlike you, you always have probably gotten up and been able to speak. When people like you look at my book, they go, yeah. But when people who are afraid of public speaking look at the book, they go, oh, I didn't know this. Oh, boy, does this relieve me? And I get all kinds of feedback of this changed my life. I've had a lifetime of speaking fear. This clarified it.
What is one example of advice that Mr. Bear gives that says, oh, what, you're worried about this? Nah, don't, just do this. Mm-hmm. What's an example?
There are about 3 top things that cause people to have so much anxiety. First, just everyone, you need to know that when you feel physical symptoms, you're scared, your hands are shaking, your voice is shaking, that comes second after thoughts. And one of the first thoughts is, if I make a mistake, they're going to think I'm incompetent, that I don't belong here.
That happens to me all the time. Yeah.
Well, see, that's my point. People like us know that, oh, you make a mistake, you fix it and keep going. People who are fearful need to hear this. When you're with your friends and you say, we're going to meet on Wednesday, and you keep talking, or let's meet at 3:00. No, let's meet at 2:30. And then you keep talking. That's a mistake and you keep talking. Do that in front of everyone because it's exactly the same. They're just a bunch of people there who will react the same as your friends. So rather than
I remember I was sorry, but I remember I was giving a speech at the B'nai B'rith, and they say, oh, about those 2 million Jews who were killed in the 6 million. Sorry, I just kept going. Yeah,
well, I think that tops it. As
I lost the crowd a little bit, yes.
Yeah. That's the funniest joke I've heard maybe all this year.
Thank you. Well, it's a short year. But all right, so that is true. It's sort of like just, you make an oopsie, it's an oopsie. Keep, of course you keep going. Do you ever, let me ask you before we get to some of the other things from the Bear book, and I do like Bear books, do you also coach, have you done the actor thing because of like stage fright? It's similar.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's 100% the same as you have some trash in your head. Most people say, how come I can speak so well one-to-one or to a couple of people, but I get so crazy in front of others? Because they have a myth that speaking to a group is different. So here's the suggestion for all of the people listening. When you're speaking in front of a large group, if you're comfortable one-to-one or 1 to 3, look in the group, if you're in person, at 1 to 3 people and blot out everyone else and only talk to them. And keep saying, I know I'm good one-to-one. Let me just do what I always do because you know you're good. Then find another small group and speak to them. The truth is that, let's say you were talking to one person and 5 more people came in. There's still a bunch of ones. The whole room of 1,000 people are just ones. When you speak to one, everyone will hear you better.
That is actually very simple. I personally would love a 1 to 3 situation, but my wife won't go for it. That's a little comedy right there. Now, my thing is, I've always heard, and this is like 60-year-old Toastmaster General stuff, but open with a joke. Now, I usually make a Jeffrey Epstein rape joke, but what kind of, and it was funny, it was at the National Organization for Women. Maybe not the yeah, didn't go over pretty well. And then I topped it with a Helen Keller joke, and boy, oh boy, I didn't get them back. But do you open with a joke, or is that, or what?
Using humor is risky. You always want to open. So here's the format. First, write your talk, right? Who am I talking to? What do I want them to do? And write the middle, the body of the talk. The close is already what you wrote, what I want them to do. The opener is just a statement, perhaps saying, today I'm going to talk about so and so and so, or like a one sentence opener. And it can be a story, an example, just a statement. It can be a joke, but jokes are risky. First, try out your joke with other people beforehand. If they laugh, that's first of all. Don't say, I'm thinking of trying this for a speech. Just say the thing, see if they laugh, and say, I'm thinking of using that as the opener for this talk. The reason that I don't recommend, I mean, it's like the last thing I recommend is opening with a joke, is that people open with a joke and then they talk about this whole other topic. Nah, you have to write your talk first and then decide, how can I open it so it'll pull people in and introduce my topic?
Now, what happens? The producer of this program, Dave, he teaches English at the university stuff. He's part-time. There's nothing to be impressed about. You have a PhD. He does not. But here's the deal. He knows there are times when he's on a topic and he knows he's boring the crap out of people. He knows his stuff. It's not like he is an idiot, but it's not like he's a complete idiot. So he's doing it, and he literally, while he's standing there, knows, I've lost them. I have to get through this material. I know what I'm talking about, but how do you stop that?
There are two antidotes. The first is, how do you make boring stuff interesting? Look through, if you talk, a lot of people say the same thing all the time, to different groups. Think of the boring part and think, how can I explain this by introducing it with an example or a story or a quotation first? And then speak only like on an 8th grade level. If you watch television, everything's on an 8th grade level. Don't be sophisticated and smart. And also, just give them what they need to know. So that's the first thing, is making it less boring.
By the way, there's no problem in Dave being sophisticated and smart. That has never happened. Will never happen. Just so he's fine on that one. That's no problem. Yes.
And yeah, but the second thing is, when you notice people that you've lost people, the mistake people make is they go, oh, I guess they didn't understand it. And they repeat the same boring stuff. So right away, as soon as you have a thought, oh, I think I'm missing something, I think I'm losing them, stop and ask a question. Hi, I'm going to stop here for just a second. And if you're on Zoom, look at the camera. But if I'm in person, hi, I'm going to stop here for a second. I want to be sure this is valuable to you. What questions do you have? So you stop and check in, and then they might say, well, really, we came here for this, or you're telling us way too much. So you adjust. You're the chameleon, because the whole purpose of standing in front of people is you have ideas in your head that you want to put into their head. Do it in the way that works for their brain, not for yours.
And there's no shame in not only not making a mistake or making a mistake, but there's also no shame in sort of doing a reboot or a recheck and saying, you know what, I want to make sure we're all on board here. Is this going? Let's do, I'll keep going, all right, or I'll pivot.
That's it. You just adjust. So people know, you stated why they should come and listen to you. So make sure in your writing that you get to the point right away. And you can, if people have said to you repeatedly, get to the point, or what's the punchline here, it means you need to edit your stuff out. And my suggestion is, find a friend who you admire how that person is succinct and concise, ask them to teach you. Or actually, Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear addresses exactly that. It has 45 tips on how to overcome speaking fear. And most importantly, it teaches you how to be an excellent public speaker. Most people who are fearful really never learned how to do it.
Can I ask, have you ever yourself given a TED Talk? Have you done TED Talks on things?
I have coached people in TED Talks. My experience is this. I've trained people for 20 years, Fortune 500 people, in public speaking. And I thought, gee, I'm so good at this seminar stuff. I'm going to be a keynote speaker. I did that. But this is what I noticed. I have an even better skill that I even like more than speaking on stages. And that is, I can make anyone in the room able to speak on stages. So that's what I do full time. And that's what I teach in the book. So anyone reading this book will end up being a confident public speaker. That is a sure thing.
Well, let me ask you, what is the greatest speech that you ever saw? It could be either a TED Talk, or it could be a president, or it could be anything that was like, whoa.
I would say to watch TED Talks. And here's why. You notice how TED Talks, they were 18 minutes. Now they're down to 11 minutes. They've adjusted. Do you notice that you watch the whole thing and you're not bored? Find TED Talk speakers. So I know who I like, but I want the people listening and watching. Find TED Talk speakers that you like and outline first their talk. So you see how minimal and how on point they are. They don't ramble off on tangents, or they don't go off. Secondly, they use their voice in an interesting way. They act out the meaning. And the last thing is their body language matches what they're saying. All those things contribute. So find some TED Talk speakers that you like and pretend you are them when you're speaking at work.
I love this idea that body language is a very important thing when you're talking. So, sometimes it's distracting, and they shouldn't do this. You want to hear what the person's saying. And,
yes.
And that just made me lose my next question. What the hell was I going to ask you? Oh, how much rehearsal? I mean, you don't want to memorize, or maybe you do, but no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't.
No, please.
So how much is like a real good amount of, you know what you're saying, you've got it all mapped out. How many times should you do it to get it?
First of all, make sure that you bring notes in. A big mistake that people who are fearful is they don't come in with notes. They go, oh, I know what I'm going to say. And every time they speak in front of others, when all eyes are on them, they're giving impromptu and spontaneous speeches. Even 5 minutes before you show up, take a sticky, put a few bullets on it. If you're on Zoom, take the sticky and paste it next to the camera, and you look brilliant. If you're in person, just put it in front of you or use speaker's notes, but don't write out your notes. That's like saying, I think I'll make sure that I lose my place when I'm speaking to people.
So really keep it like bullet, what do they call talking point kind of. Can I ask, what is on that sticky you just showed, because you got ready for this? What's on there? What did you literally write on your sticky?
Oh, I wrote nothing. This is to call my doctor. I didn't write notes for this. I'm a huge expert in public speaking. Pretty much whatever you ask me, I'm going to be able to tell you.
We're two Jews talking. What are you calling your doctor about? Are you okay? Is everything all right?
But I do want to say that there are times that, like just about 2 months ago, I had to call someone and introduce myself. And it was someone important. I didn't want to wing it. And even though that is second nature to me, I put bullets when I called that person. Don't be foolish. Don't depend on memory. Oh, and as far as memorization goes, write a short opener and a short close. I only memorize the opener and close so I can make eye contact during that. For the rest of the time, look at your bullet, give that information. Look at the next bullet, give that information. That's how you become a good speaker.
We're talking, by the way, with REESA WOOLF, who is quite obviously a very good speaker. Gotta ask, because of the name, any relation at all, even distantly, to Leonard or Virginia Woolf, or do you know? Or
well, I think that they could be distant relatives, but mostly that wasn't our name forever.
Oh, was it Wolfowitz back in the?
It was Wolfowitz from like Lithuania. I asked my uncle once, was our family from Latvia or Lithuania? He said, they kept changing the borders.
Not a joke. No, Dave, the producer of this program, was it Russia one day? Was it Poland the other day? Russia somewhere. It's like, what the hell? So it's either for you, Lithuania,
Lithuania or Latvia.
Latvia. One of the.
Yeah. So can I tell you since this is an unusual podcast, can I tell you one story about my family in the old days?
Yes.
In the old country? Their grandfather lived, in the little shtetl, and he spoke German, and the prince of the area would send his carriage, pick up the grandfather, take him to the castle. He taught their daughters German, and on Friday they'd bring him back. And one time he was at the door of the castle, the back door, and they opened the door and they started to beat him. And she says, no, that's our Jew.
That's our Jew. I love, because I was going to say, were they more gentle with the family during the pogroms? Or like, hey,
No, no, no,
crockery.
no,
Yeah, yeah,
no.
punch
There's a reason why I have some blood in me that is not fully ours. Mhm.
Oh, what? Whoa. Oh, huh? Okay. Wait.
Pogroms.
No, I didn't realize the pogroms were not just, they were, ugh, really?
Yeah, yeah. When I was in Russia, this woman looked at me and she said, "Polskie," and I thought, "Yeah, I look Polish, but because it's not because I'm Jewish, that's for sure."
Well, no, Dave was in Russia many, many years ago, and he walked down
Mhm.
the streets of St. Petersburg, and people would start talking Russian to him, and he said, "Oh,
I said, "Oh, wow, that is really cool." But the point is in fact, let's bring up, as long as we're going to do an odd bridge here, people who speak English as a second language. Now, my grandparents were immigrants. I hope somebody was nice to them. Here's the biggest thing that people can do when they speak English as a second language. If anyone has said to you in the last 6 months, "Pardon me, what did you say? Would you speak slower? Would you speak louder?" Speak loud, but speak slowly. And the most important thing is to say each word completely. Many people, when they come from other towns, talk like I do. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and in Baltimore, we never say any final consonant. We just talk like this. And when I was 12 years old, these kids came down from another city that belonged in a club, and they spoke differently. And I went, "Oh, you can choose how you speak." So many people who are fluent in English don't realize that it's the clear articulation that makes people interested. People don't mind your accent when it's charming. They just don't want it when it's distracting. And you can fix that like in 1 second.
Now, you mentioned Maryland, because this show is now coming from lovely Maryland. You weren't raised here, but you went to the university there.
I went to Forest Park High School, and I graduated from University of Maryland as one of the outstanding college senior leaders. I was a big leader in college.
What does that even mean? You were on debate teams? What does a leader in college mean?
It means that I was a student leader. Like I was on, like there was the president of the fraternities, president of the sororities. I was the president of all the dorms. But you know what? Most of us women student leaders were speech therapy majors, because it's true what they say, and that is we all should have gone to law school and business school, but that's just how it was. But anyway, it was a wonderful experience. I really just expanded my interests about, oh my heavens, life is interesting. Let me go to theater. Let me go to this. I really expanded. And then from there, I evolved into this. It turns out that my speech therapy background is now helpful, because I would say a third of my clients are people who speak English as a second language and want to move up, and they're completely qualified, but they sense that their accent is holding them back.
Talk in an office meeting or a conference, or that got, that's the one step that they need to make to be clear. But I do want to hear a little bit more about growing up in Maryland, what it was like back then, what the university area was like back then, any memories?
Okay. So,
memories. Yeah.
I can tell you a lot of Maryland memories, and that is that I lived in the small community, our community, and it was very enmeshed. My father and uncle, actually most of my family, were leaders in that community. So when I would meet anyone, they would say, "Oh, are you so-and-so's daughter? Or are you related to them?" Because they were active. They were really significant people there. That's one of the reasons I had to move away. I needed to have people just see me for me and not as someone's.
Where are you based out of now? What state? Where are you?
Oh, I live in Austin, Texas, but I lived in Honolulu and San Francisco. It's been a really exciting life.
Whoa. Do you have, none of my business if you don't want to say, but married, kids, any of that sort of life stuff?
When I grew up, I had a wonderful aunt who really saw who I was way before I saw who I was. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be an aunt. And in fact, not only am I an aunt to my nephews and their kids, but every kid that comes my way, I'm like the auntie name for them. And it's been a very, very, very pleasing life. It was by choice, and it was the right choice for me.
Oh, Mademoiselle McGlick. So are you still I mean, it's Austin, Texas, so it's Texas, so it is. But you know, there's some art and culture there, a little bit. So do you go to museums, theaters, things like this? What's life like in Austin these days?
Well, Austin is the music capital, and it still has fabulous music. When I came here and I went to the venue of Austin City Limits, I was like, oh my gosh, I've watched this for years, and here I am in the real place. Very, very exciting. I lived in New Jersey before I moved here,
Oh,
and I
I'm so
went into
sorry for you.
Manhattan and went to Broadway a lot and went to theaters a lot. Plus, I traveled for, well, this was another thing that was interesting, a choice that I made. When I was in college first year, I took a psychology course, and when they showed me Maslow's hierarchy of needs and they talked about self-actualization, like actually looking at what are your favorite skills to do and your best skills, your most natural skills, and how can you make money from that? And I thought, well, that's a good idea. And I pretty much followed that path all my life. In fact, I am completely doing what I love right now. And so what I did was, at that point, when I graduated from college and I realized, oh, I like to travel, I thought, how can I travel the world and have someone else pay for it? So for 25 years, I was the top seminar leader at the largest and the oldest management seminar company. And I traveled the world. I've been to the pyramids. I've been to Peru. I've been all over the US.
Have you been
And
to Israel?
say,
Have you been to Israel? No,
oh, yeah.
Israel.
When
Oh,
I went to Israel, I imagine other people have had this sensation. I was there for about a day and a half, and it dawned on me, everyone here is Jewish. I'm not kind of, I never realized how much I was aware of. I don't even know how to put it into words. All I know is there was a feeling that came over me to realize that I was safe and at home and with mishpucha. I ask people, I ask African Americans, when you've gone back to where, you know, they've done their ancestor thing, when you've gone back to that town, how did it feel? And they had the same sensation. And then I say to them, so when you met your family members, did you look like them? Did you have a, and you know, often they say, yeah, I really look like I belong.
I
So
gotta tell
there's,
you, this feeling that you're talking about, I had it at a Walmart in Weehawken, New Jersey. I don't know why. It was in the appliance thing, and you know, there were a couple of Jews there, and we realized we're looking at tools. And then I look at them, they look at, we're Jews, we don't use tools, we don't know how to do this. And it was just this moment of like, I'm with Lanzmann. I
yeah,
know my people, but oh
yeah.
my, so in your travel, I love hearing stories about world travel. Do you have any amazing, funny, or like, whoa, anecdotes about not just Israel, but wherever you've been?
Mhm. One of my favorites was I was in Russia early. It was when it had just transferred over, and what was the guy with the thing on his head?
Gorbachev, he just died.
Gorbachev. So Gorbachev, I think, had just come in, but there was a lot, that whole White House, it was a lot of things happening, and no one was traveling to Russia. I saw this ad for this stupidly cheap trip to Russia. I said, is this for real? They said, yeah, we have to do it. The leader of our group had also been the translator and the leader for the last president of the United States. So I went, I guess I'm getting a pretty good tour here. But the point of the story is, when I went to the Kremlin Museum and I saw Fabergé eggs for the first time, I thought, first of all, my nose was against it, and the next leader pushed me away. But I thought, you know, I think there are about 52, 53 Fabergé eggs. I think I'll make it a quest to see all of them. And so so this ties into my work. So for example, when I would take a gig in Virginia, there was a museum in Virginia that had 4 Fabergé eggs. So I continued to go there. I like teaching the class too, but I went the day before and visited those Fabergé eggs. Baltimore, at the Walters, they have 2 Fabergé eggs.
I didn't even know. Oh my gosh, that's almost like
Oh,
a different omelet. This is exciting.
you
So how
are
many of the
so funny. Go
I,
on.
but how many of the 23 or however many you say have you
Oh,
seen?
I've seen most of them, because one time I was in Cleveland working, and at their museum, why did I take the gig? Because the museum had a gathering of as many Fabergé eggs, even from private collections. And so I saw the remainder of them. I checked off almost everyone that was available. And in fact, I'm lucky because in Manhattan, they used to have at the Forbes collection 10 eggs, but now they're in Russia. So I used to visit those a lot. So this is how I've lived my life. I go, oh, that looks interesting. And then I pursue that. Or that looks like fun. I'd like to learn that. And I'd sign up for that class. I've done that hundreds of times.
I'm going to tell you, for our 10th anniversary, I gave my dear wife, Miriam Libby, a vibrating Fabergé egg. It worked for a while. It was, she enjoyed it. Yeah.
Variations on the theme.
Basically, yes. Basically, that's what I do. Now, I want to remind people, though, we're talking with REESA WOOLF. You can get her book, Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear, and all the usual places you can get books, or from her, I had it down somewhere, your wesite.
No, they can just go to Amazon. Just go to Amazon.
Well, ConfidentSpeaking.com is also your thing if they want to hire you as a coach. ConfidentSpeaking.com, because you also have another book, and it's called Executive Speaking in a Weekend. So that was an earlier book, yes?
I wrote that 10 years ago. And the reason I wrote in a weekend is that I work really fast with people. And I wrote this in the same way. It's condensed, short, get to the point. There's just no fluff in any of my books. But the one that really takes all of that book and expands it. I know that, so I wrote Mr. Bear in a parable, kind of like, who moved my cheese. But I don't like to learn things from reading a story. It's just not my style. So what I did was I wrote the story, but in every chapter, I wrote summary, and it has bullet points, which is the way I like to learn. But I even separated out Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear, and every speaking tip to overcome fear of public speaking is separate. And as I said, there are 45 tips. When someone reads this book, they will, one, become a much better public speaker and have a better career, but also they won't hesitate to raise their hand at a meeting. They won't hesitate to raise their hand at an event.
Speaking of speaking, I also want to ask you, do you have any guidance or suggestions? Because most people, when they're giving speeches now, maybe not a TED Talk, they're also dealing with slides or PowerPoint or Keynote. This is a program that does these things. Do you have any good suggestions for speakers in using PowerPoint slides?
I like PowerPoint slides to not have your script written out. When I show up and someone has their whole talk on the screen, even in bullets, but they have full sentences, I think, why am I here? Just send me your PowerPoint. Instead, I suggest that your screens have just the concept, and then you're going to talk about it. You're going to give the bullets underneath it, or you could have the bullets build one at a time. The point is, you want to first write your talk and make it really great. Add in the little stories and examples and things like that kind of make it rich. Add the voice, add the body language. After all of that, think, people learn better with PowerPoint. It's only then, when the talk stands on its own already, that you add screens, and the screens to just have the point you're talking about, just like a bullet and a couple of words, and then the attention goes back to you.
This makes sense. Now, we've been paying attention to REESA WOOLF. Please, please, please get her books. It's Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear, and also Executive Speaking in a Weekend. I don't know what to say. What do you do?
No. The first book isn't even available anymore. It's Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear, the easiest way to learn the hardest subject, public speaking.
Wow, the easiest way to learn the hard. Well, you certainly make it seem easy, which is part of the point. And just let me ask you, what, since we just came off New Year's, what are you hoping for this year in terms of your life and your career? Going anywhere special, or just doing what you do, or maybe taking more me time? What?
I kind of have a backwards life. I retired first. I pretty much first had my fun life, and I took work that wouldn't impose itself on my fun. And it just happened that what I was good at was teaching and training. So I've done that pretty much since my 20s. And then it evolved into training public speaking. And I also traveled for 25 years. I traveled on someone else's dime for 25 years. I've done everything on my bucket list. So now
everything. You tried the electric egg?
I didn't know about that.
Oh, really?
What I'm doing now,
You've skydove. You've.
That wasn't on my bucket list.
So
But
what?
my bucket list was to see the Fabergé eggs. My bucket list was to go the places that I wanted to go. And I've met fabulous, interesting people. But what I wanted to say, because you said, what are my New Year's goals? This is what I noticed. Because I looked at the world events and I went, good people are not speaking up, because there's more good people than the goofballs who are currently taking over, kind of like the Renaissance, and then there's the Dark Ages, Renaissance, Dark Ages. So I see that we're kind of falling from grace. And so I thought, I know how to help those people who are fearful around the world speak well. This book will be in Spanish and various languages. My goal is that this becomes a worldwide resource for people, and that good people around the world are able to find and use their voice. That is why I wrote the book.
And by the way, not so good people like me. But I do love, and I've got to bring Dave back in here to do the quiz, and we have some guests coming in. So you're staying. I'm on.
Yes.
But here's I don't know if you saw Bill Maher a few weeks ago, where he said, Bill Maher, the guy from.
Oh no, I watch him all the time.
Right. So he had this thing just after the midterm elections, where he said, this was a reminder that America can still be kind of normal. It's not the crazy 10% on the left and not the crazy 10%. There's like 80% that just, we don't hear from them. And he had this marvelous metaphor of, it's like we're letting the crying baby fly the plane.
Yes. Oh, yes. Completely. And
yeah.
all of that ties into when I got the inspiration for, I know how to help those quiet people speak up. That is literally what got me. Who would write a book if they didn't feel an urge and a mission? Trust me, it's real hard to write a book, especially to write a book that is precise. I know how to do it, and I wrote it in a way that works for the dyslexic mind, the ESL, English as a second language, and to anyone who admires other speakers and think, gee, I wish I could speak like that. This book will help you do that. It's a guaranteed sure thing. If you do this book, you will be confident public speaker, and you will really be able to capture and hold attention.
And I've got to say, in my synagogue, we even have a special book for the dyslexic people. In Say the Torah, we have a Horat. So it's very helpful to them. And they read it. They start from the middle, they go left, they go right. It works. It works. We have been talking with REESA WOOLF here in the neighborhood with me, Rabbi Sol Solomon. I want to wish you a most Shana Tova Tikatevu. I don't know what the last word means, but Tikatevu double, because you've just been wonderful. But as I said, you are staying, I am going, Dave is coming. Let's hear some delightful Hasidic music. No, that's not the thing I wanted to bring up. See, I made a mistake. I'm just continuing. This is how. Oh!
You are the role model for others.
I am, God damn it. I wish the police would feel the same way. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. We've got the Today, Yesterday quiz coming with Leslie Hoban Blake, Vicky Quaddy, and REESA WOOLF.